name is Obalim. So in this particular video, I want to explain the recent changes in the PMP examination. So we're going to basically be looking at it from two major perspectives. One, we shall talk about why does the PMI keep changing its syllabus? And then secondly, we shall now take a look at the current changes to the syllabus of the PMP and then also how it affects the exam ultimately. Okay, so by the end of this particular session, you should be able to understand these two factors that I've mentioned so far. So quickly, let's dive in. So the first one I'm going to talk about is why does the PMI keep changing its syllabus every now and then? If you notice, usually every 2 or 3 years, you get to hear that there's a new syllabus, and then of course you get to also hear sometimes that there's a change to the PIN book, or there's a change to what we refer to as the exam content outline. So notice that the practice of project management evolves over time. So usually the PMI conducts survey every 3 to 5 years, and within those 3 to 5 years, in the course of conducting the survey, they use the outcome of the survey to review what will be contained within the syllabus of the PMP itself. So for example, if you notice nowadays, a lot of organizations are beginning to adopt the agile methodology when it comes to project management, or a hybrid, that is a combination of the agile and traditional methodology. So what the PMI has done is, when they have conducted this study and they check the trends or what has been happening over time, then based on that, they will now update the syllabus. So the syllabus is contained in the document known as the exam content outline, which for short we refer to as ECO, that is ECO, the exam content outline. So the exam content outline is basically the document that the PMI publishes that contains the syllabus that the PMI would now use to test for the PMP examination. So remember we said, first, why does PMI keep changing its syllabus? And we said that the syllabus are updated every now and then as a result of surveys to be able to inculcate the current happenings within the industry in the project management certification. Okay, next, we're going to now talk about the new syllabus and then also what to expect and how it affects the PMP examination. If you notice, the previous syllabus had what we refer to as 5 domains, which also are the same thing as the 5 process groups that we have in project management. And those 5 domains were initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. However, with the recent change that PMI has made to its syllabus, which of course will take effect from this year, 2021, we now have 3 domains, which are people, process, and then of course business environment. So according to the PMI, most of the questions you're going to find in the exam will now come from the process domain. In other words, about half, that is 50% of the questions will come from the process domain, while about 42% of the questions will come from people domain. And then about 8% of the questions will now come from the business environment domain. Okay, so we have seen the changes that have been made. Of course, for details of these changes, you can simply refer to the exam content outline to see a breakdown of all the tasks that are performed in each of these domains that I have just mentioned. Then, let's now talk about the change in the exam. Recently, PMI published an article that clearly itemized some of the changes that have been made to the PMP examination. First of all, understand that before now, the exam used to be 200 questions in all. But then with the recent change that PMI has made, the exam has been reduced from 200 questions to 180 questions. So in essence, you're not going to have to contend with 180 questions in the exams as against 200 questions that used to be the case before now. Another interesting change that the PMI has made to the examination is the fact that they have now included 2 10-minute break in the exams. Before now, what we used to have is just 1 10-minute break, which usually happens at the end of the 89th question. You will get a prompt to proceed on a break. However, PMI has published that there are now going to be 2 breaks in the examination, which of course will come at different intervals in the course of the examination itself. I guess that gives you enough time to ease yourself and then also take some refreshment and possibly ease your head just in the event that you're finding some of the questions very, very difficult. Okay, The duration of the exam has also changed. So before now, the exam used to be a 4 hours exam, which is a total of 240 minutes in all. But then with the recent change, PMI has reduced the duration from 240 minutes to 230 minutes. Of course, this translates into 3 hours, 50 minutes for the exams, as against the 4 hours exam that we used to have before. Another very exciting change that will come in the exam is now the question types. Of course, notice that before now, we used to have 200 multiple choice questions. However, with the recent publication, PMI has said that the questions will now be a combination of multiple choice questions. So you're still going to have the multiple choice questions as usual with 4 options, A to D, and then you have to select one as the correct answer. But aside from that, you're also going to have what the PMI refers to as multiple responses question. So what that simply means is this question might carry up to 6 options, and then within the 6 options, you may have a situation where there are about 2 or 3 correct answers in that particular question. So you are expected to, within all the options that were given, to select all the correct answers within the question itself. I mean, that's a bit tricky, but I'm reasonably sure that such questions will carry higher weight in the exam compared to other questions, as it were. There's also the matching questions. So what the matching question simply represents is, I mean, PMI has already implemented this in the CAPM exam, and I think they are just bringing it into the PMP exam. So you're going to have like 3 columns, and then on the right-hand side, you would have some set of variables. On the left-hand side, you're also going to have some set of variables. For example, you might have some processes on the right-hand side, and then maybe knowledge, and then maybe process groups on the left-hand side. So within the middle, you're now expected to match the correct process with the relevant process group, as it were. So that's the whole idea of the matching questions. Beyond the matching questions, there's also what the PMI refers to as interactive graphs. So with the interactive graphs, you would see a display of a graph, and then probably see some curves, and you're expected to carry out some analysis and then choose the correct answer from the graph itself. That is also a very exciting one to look forward to. So another very important update is that the questions is now a mix of the traditional methodology, which is the predictive method, which of course has always been the case. I mean, before now, most of the content of the PMP is based on the predictive method. That's the traditional methodology. However, with the recent change, only 50% of the questions will now be based on the predictive methodology. Then 23% of the questions will now be based on the agile methodology. And 27% of the questions will now be based on the hybrid methodology. So hybrid is basically a combination of the predictive methodology as well as the agile methodology. So in essence, if we take a look at this table, you'll be able to fully understand exactly what I am trying to talk about. So remember that earlier on, I mentioned that we have 3 domains, which are people, process, and business environment. And I mentioned that the people domain has about 42% of the questions, which of course will translate into about 76 questions in all. And then the process domain has about 50% of the questions, which translate into about 90 questions in all. And the business environment domain has about 8% of the questions, which translate into 14 questions in all. So out of the 76 questions, which of course will come from people domain, half of it will be based on the predictive methodology. And that's exactly what you can see here. You can see, like we mentioned earlier on, 50% of the questions will come from predictive methodology. So out of the 42 questions which we have, out of the 76 questions which we have in people domain, half of it, which is about 38, will come from predictive approach. Then 23%, which is about 18 questions, will come from agile methodology. And then 20 of those questions, which is about 11%, will come from the hybrid methodology. Also, for the process domain, which will carry 50% of the questions, that means that 25% of the questions will be based on predictive approach, which is about 45 questions. Then Agile will carry about 11% of the questions, which is about 20 questions in all. And then hybrid will now be 14% of the questions, which is about 25 questions in all. And for business environment, that, has 8% of the total questions, that's about 14 questions in all. Half of it, which is between 7 to 8 questions, will come from predictive method. Then about 2%, which is 3 to 4 questions, will come from the agile methodology. And then also another 2%, which is between 3 to 4 questions, will also come from the hybrid methodology. So in essence, in a nutshell, half of the questions for each of these domains will be based on the predictive or the traditional approach, while 23% of the questions on each of these domains will come from the agile methodology. So in essence, expect about 41 questions in all from the agile methodology in your PMP exam, and about 27% of the whole questions will come from the hybrid methodology. So expect about 49 to 50 questions from the hybrid methodology in the PMP examination. So all of this is basically what you should expect from the PMP exam going forward. So in a nutshell, we basically talked about why the PMI changes its exam every now and then, and we said that the PMI does that because they want to be able to bring the exam to be relevant with the context of project management in today's situation. And we also took a look at some of the changes that has been made to the PMP syllabus, which of course includes doing away with the initial 5 domains that we used to have, and then bringing in 3 domains, which, like we mentioned, are people, process, and then business environment. And we said that most of the questions will come from the process domain. And then we also talked about the type of questions you will see in the exam, ranging from the normal multiple choice questions to multiple responses questions. And then also we have matching questions, as well as what we refer to as interactive. So these and many more are some of the things you should expect in the exam. Don't also forget that the exam questions have been reduced from 200 questions to 180 questions. And aside from that, the time has been reduced from 240 minutes to 230 minutes. And you now have the option of going for more than 1 break. So you have 2 breaks included within the examination. I hope this particular video has been very informative for you, especially if you're looking for answers about how to go about your PMP certification. Thank you very much for watching. If you need any assistance with regards to the PMP preparation certification process, you can contact us with the address below or at the end of this particular video, and then we'll be sure to help you navigate the terrain and essentially put you through to how you'll be able to effectively pass your PMP examination in one sitting. I hope this particular video has been very informative